There was a magical time when everything from Sonic the Hedgehog to Mario to The Legend of Zelda was getting its own cartoon. However, there were plenty of others out there that some of you may not have seen. Here's 5 cartoons based on video games you may have missed or forgotten about. Dragon's Lair. Absolutely one of the most groundbreaking video games of all time. Dragon's Lair took film quality animation from the legendary Don Bluth and made a game that was unlike anything else at the time. In the game, you play as Dirk the Daring. Your mission was to rescue the Princess Daphne from the evil wizard Mordroc and the dragon Singe. You enter the castle, and the game is played in a series of randomized stages. Each area was essentially what would later become known as a QuickTime event. You had to hit the right button or move in the right direction at the right time in order to not die. The death animations were often very humorous, and some people watched the game just to see them. While the game includes a total of 22 minutes of animation, a perfect playthrough can be done in 12 minutes. The game was a huge hit in arcades, even though it was the first game in history to cost 50 cents to play, as opposed to the other games which cost a quarter. The game was released into arcades on June 19, 1983. Kids and adults lined up to play the game. Since it was already an animated property, it made sense to turn it into an animated series. So, Dragon's Lair, the animated series, was born. Dragon's Lair was produced by Ruby Spears. The show premiered September 8, 1984 on ABC. The series revolved around Dirk the Daring. Each episode was him doing good deeds and battling evil. To give this an element in line with the game, every commercial break, Dirk would have to make a decision. They would show each choice, and the narrator would ask the audience, "What would you do?"
The arch does lead to freedom, but can it hold Dirk's weight? What would you do?
After they returned, they would show the outcomes of the incorrect choices, and then finally the correct answer. This was a way to keep kids watching during the commercial breaks so they wouldn't miss the results. While the original game was animated by Don Bluth, the show was done by the Ruby Spears animators. So while the animation was fine for a Saturday morning cartoon, it wasn't nearly as good as the animation in the game. The show didn't do as well as the game, and it only lasted for 1 season. Dragon's Lair ran for 13 episodes, with the last one airing December 1st, 1984. In 1984, they were working on the video game Dragon's Lair 2, but due to some problems, it wasn't released into arcades until 1991. Since home consoles couldn't reproduce the arcade version yet, there were other versions that kept the spirit of the game, but most were not particularly good. Once home consoles and PCs were able to reproduce the arcade experience, the game was released on just about everything. You can now play Dragon's Lair 1, 2, and the spiritual spin-off, Space Ace. Bluth wanted to make a fully animated movie back in the 80s, but I'm really sad that never happened because it would have been awesome. In 2016, he raised over $700,000 towards a fully animated film, but it looks like things have changed. That money seems to have been used to make a pitch for a fully animated film. In 2020, it was announced that Bluth had come to an agreement with Netflix for them to distribute the film on their service, with Ryan Reynolds in the lead. Reynolds is kind of goofy, and if they make it a live-action cartoon, it might work. We shall see. Although it's been 5 years since the announcement, so the whole thing might be dead in the water. Dragon's Lair, the animated series, was released on DVD in 2011. The show isn't available for streaming, but the episodes are on YouTube. Saturday Supercade. Saturday Supercade isn't just one video game, it's a bunch of video games. Saturday Supercade was an anthology cartoon series from Ruby Spears. The show premiered September 17th, 1983 on ABC. Saturday Supercade focused on a variety of video games. Each episode was split into 4 11-minute segments, which were then split amongst the games. Season 1 was Frogger, Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong Jr. The last segment would switch between either Pitfall or Q*bert. In Season 2, they dropped Frogger, Donkey Kong Jr., and Pitfall, so they could focus on Q*bert, Donkey Kong, and the new additions of Kangaroo and Space Ace. The series had classic comedian Soupy Sales as the voice of Donkey Kong, and Mario was voiced by Peter Cullen. Frank Welker provided the weird noises and whatnot for Q*bert, as well as the voice of Donkey Kong Jr. The shows were just expansions of the games. finding ways in order to take their basic concepts and make them into an 11-minute cartoon. For example, in Pitfall Harry, his niece Rhonda, and their pet mountain lion Quickclaw were exploring the jungle looking for hidden treasures. Rhonda and Quickclaw weren't in the original Pitfall game, but were included in Pitfall 2 and Super Pitfall. The game changes were an attempt to keep the show going, but ABC decided to pull the plug. Saturday Supercade lasted for 2 seasons with 26 episodes. The last one aired December 1st, 1984. Unfortunately, the show wasn't rebroadcast as much as the other shows, and as such, many of the episodes have been lost. In 2010, Warner Brothers announced that the show would be released on DVD, but due to some rights issues, they may not be able to release all the episodes. As far as I can see, it looks like they never released any of them. In 2015, Sony released Q*bert on DVD. Although it's not the full series, as the set only includes 17 of the 19 episodes. It looks like the series may have been streaming somewhere a few years ago, but not anymore. A bunch of the episodes are on YouTube. Earthworm Jim. The video game Earthworm Jim was first released on mobile platforms back in 1994. It was a 2D run-and-gun platformer with some 3D stages. It was based on Jim, an earthworm that crawls into a supersuit that allows him to move like a human. Over the course of the game, Jim has to fight off the aliens who want their suit back. This all came about due to the success of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys. Playmates Toys had a line of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures and playsets that were selling incredibly well. Although they didn't own the franchise, they were licensing it. They wanted to start their own franchise, which they'd have more involvement in. Artist and animator Doug Tenapel sketched out an earthworm character, which he presented to video game developer Shiny Entertainment. Shiny liked the concept, bought the rights, and then began to work on the game. Doug worked with Shiny to develop the game design, the art style, and he even did the voice for the character. The game first came out on the Sega Genesis in October of 1994, with the Super Nintendo version releasing shortly afterwards. The game was a big hit, which turned into a full-fledged franchise. There was a special edition of the game released on the Sega CD with updates to the graphics, a new level, and improved music. After that, there was Earthworm Jim 2, Earthworm Jim 3D, and Earthworm Jim Menace to the Galaxy. In 2010, they released Earthworm Jim HD, which was a complete HD upgrade to the original game. Before all that, though, the game was turned into an animated show. Earthworm Jim was a co-production between Universal Cartoon Studios and Flex Tech plc. The series premiered on September 9th, 1995 on Kids WB. The show followed the basics of the game, but expanded on it since they had more time to fill. The episodes often were about the bad guys trying to reclaim their supersuit from Jim, but then there were episodes that revolved around humorous events in Jim's home life, like the time he ran out of sugar, so he goes to the store to get some, only to run into some bad guys who try to blow him up. Like in the game, the show is over-the-top silly, with various non-sequiturs and fourth-wall-breaking moments. Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson, voiced Earthworm Jim, as well as many other characters on the show. Jim Cummings voiced most of the villains. Playmates Toys then did what they set out to do, release a line of toys based on the game and the show. This series lasted for 2 seasons with 23 episodes. The last one aired December 13th, 1996. Some of the episodes were released on VHS. The full series was later released on DVD. This series was available for streaming on Tubi, but not anymore. I don't see it anywhere else. Aside from some clips, it's not on YouTube. In 2021, there was a new Earthworm Jim series in development, but in 2023, it was announced the series was put on hold, so most likely it's not going to happen. Battletoads. Back in 1991, Battletoads was released on the NES from Trade West and Rare. It went on to be known as one of the hardest video games of all time. As you would suspect, it was made as an alternative to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, although it was a trio of toads: Rash, Zitz, and Pimple. Despite its difficulty, the game became a favorite with gamers, and started a franchise that spanned many sequels. So naturally, they decided to turn this into a cartoon. The animation studio, Deke, put together a pilot in the hopes of turning this into a full series. The pilot was a prequel that would set up the series. It was about 3 high school kids who transform into superpowered toads. With their new powers, they have to protect Professor T-Bird and the princess from the evil Dark Queen and her minions. The pilot was included in the Kids Day Off package, which premiered on Thanksgiving weekend in 1992. The show did not go over well, and it wasn't picked up for a full series. Kinda surprising. This looks like something that normally would have been a hit back then. Remember, Street Sharks got 3 seasons, Extreme Dinosaurs got a season with 52 episodes, and Biker Mice from Mars also got 3 seasons. I'm genuinely surprised this only got a pilot. Buena Vista, one of the subdivisions of Disney, released the pilot on VHS in 1994. The pilot is not on DVD, but it's been uploaded to YouTube a bunch of times, with the quality varying from channel to channel. Mega Man. Mega Man is a long-running video game franchise that started as Rockman in Japan. This is a case of where the original game was released in Japan and the US very close to each other. Both versions were released in December of 1987. The game's about a humanoid robot, Mega Man, who has to defeat the robot masters created by the evil Dr. Wily. The game would go on to be a massive hit for Capcom, and over the years, they released about a bazillion Mega Man games. Although lately, much to the despair of the fans, they haven't done a lot with the franchise. However, that's a whole other story. Anyway, it took a while for the cartoon to happen. The original game came out in 1987, and the cartoon didn't happen until 1994. This was around when Capcom was releasing the 12th game in the franchise. Mega Man the Animated Series was co-produced by Ruby Spears and Ashi Productions. The first episode aired September 11th, 1994. It followed the plot of the game. Dr. Light and Dr. Wily design a super robot, and Wily steals the plans. Dr. Light then builds Rock and Roll. He reprograms Rock to be Mega Man, with the power to absorb the abilities of Dr. Wily's robots. Each episode is Dr. Light and Mega Man fighting Dr. Wily and his evil robots before they destroy the city. After the pilot aired, the show went into first-run syndication on September 17th, 1994. The show apparently did well. It was the #1 weekly syndicated children's show at the time. However, it still only went on for 2 seasons. The show ran for 27 episodes, with the last one airing January 19th, 1996. The series had reruns shown on the Fox Family Channel up until 2001. Back in 1995, some of the episodes were released on VHS. The show was released on DVD in 2014, and it was remastered to Blu-ray by Discotech Media, with a release coming October 28th, 2025. The show is not currently available for streaming, but the entire series is on YouTube. If you'd like to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. At the $6 level, you get the bonus 6 entry for these kind of videos, as well as the ability to vote on future entries. I appreciate your support. There are plenty of cartoons that have made good video games, and vice versa. What are some of your favorites? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.
But where is Dr. Wily?
That's a good question. We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room. When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.